Of Word to Word, a comparative study of the Bible and the Quran, 12 differences between the Bible and the Quran. And this is number 8. There are several versions of the Bible. There is one version of the Quran. Trying to center myself on the screen here. Um, okay, there are several versions of the Bible. Even in the original Hebrew language, there have always been several versions of the scriptures. By the by the time excuse me by the time standard lists of the sacred books came to be made, there were already at least 3 different groups descended from the old Israelites. One, the Samaritans, who were descended from the inhabitants of the northern kingdom of Israel before the Assyrian conquest in the 8th century before Christ. 2, those returning from Babylonian exile, now called Jews for the first time in the 5th century before Christ. And 3, those Jews left behind in Palestine during the Babylonian conquest and also dispersed as far afield as Egypt. Each of these groups came to have its own version of the scriptures. This designation, Jews, I don't know why the letter D disappeared from English, but in other languages, it's Yahud, that's German, Judeans, which is English, but the Jew is short for Judean, okay? And the people of Israel call themselves the children of Israel or the house of Israel. They were not calling themselves Judeans. Outsiders called them Judeans. They didn't call themselves Judeans or Jews. They started calling themselves Jews during and after the Babylonian exile. And the Babylonian exile only took, I don't even know if it was 2,000 people. It was the elite of the kingdom that was known as Judea. The northern kingdom of Israel had been swept away by the Assyrian conquest. Okay, those tribes were not lost. You can believe that if you like, but the Assyrians assimilated people, right? If they took those people away, they were assimilated into the rest of the Assyrian empire. Um, so the 10 tribes were assimilated into Assyria. But the 2 tribes that lived in Judea, the children of Judah, and I'm not sure what the other one was, but it was called Judea. And the outsiders call them Judeans. They call themselves the children of Israel or the house of Israel. So when we talk about Jews, we're talking about people who after the Babylonian exile, they came to call themselves Judeans or Jews for short. And there were no people, among the descendants of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob calling themselves Judeans or Jews. Judah was one of the great grandsons of Abraham. So uh, Jacob and Isaac and Abraham before them were not Jews. I was supposed to be teaching humanities, and the textbook said that Abraham was a Jew. These things are simply not true. Okay? Extremely important to understand these things. You can't just say anything and it's going to be true because we say it, and which is what a lot of people say. Okay? So at any rate, here's a quotation. The author of the quotation is Romer, one of my sources, if you can look it up. Romer. So the question whether our Old Testament is an accurate copy of an ancient Hebrew original is no longer relevant. It seems that there never was a single original of the holy writings. Okay, and holy writings. Holy. There are people who call the Quran holy. Nonsense. Okay. The current Hebrew Bible, known as the Masoretic version, is based on the scriptures compiled and accepted by the Jewish community which returned from Babylonian exile. The Christian version of the Old Testament is based on the Septuagint. Here we go into Greek, Septuagint. That's seven something or other. Septuagint, a version of the scriptures translated into Greek by the Greek-speaking Jewish community in Alexandria, Egypt, during the 3rd century BC. Okay, we have all these different communities of people, and that 3rd century BC would be after the Babylonian exile, so maybe they actually did call themselves Jews. Okay. Before the modern era, not only were there different translations of the same version, but different translations of different versions as well. In recent centuries, translations of the Bible have proliferated, creating dozens of versions of the Bible in the English language alone. Dozens in English alone. There is one version of the Quran. Because the Quran is preserved in its original form, there is only one version. Anyone can compare editions of the Quran published in India or Pakistan with editions published in Egypt or Iran or Turkey or West Africa. The style of writing may vary, but the text is always the same. Anyone can compare editions of the Quran published today with editions published centuries ago. Again, the style of writing may vary, but the text is always the same. When I lived in New York, I used to go to the museums, and if they had an exhibit with Muslim items in it, Muslims wrote versions of, excerpts from the Quran on everything, on the buildings. There are mosques, masajid, that's the plural of masjid. In New York City, there's one, at least that I know of, where the entire Quran is actually written on the walls. Because the Quran is not, is only a fraction of the length of the Bible, and the entire Quran is written on the walls. And this is true of masajid in other parts of the world. But at any rate, I go to a museum, and the excerpts from the Quran are written on artifacts, even on swords, on the blade of the sword, an excerpt from the Quran. Your throat is being cut, and this sword is saying, whatever, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, with the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, and your throat is being cut. But MashaAllah. But they wrote the Quran on these, the technology of those swords, the Muslim swords was beyond anything the Europeans had. I'm trying to straighten my shirt, but this is not a mirror. I'm seeing things reversed. But anyway, and I used to carry a Quran, I wore a jacket, like a suit jacket, not an old suit, but a suit jacket. And I'd keep a little Quran in my pocket, which at that time my vision was such that I could actually read it. And I would take out that little Quran and compare the verses in the Quran with what was written on those items in the museum exhibit. They're always identical, always, without fail, no deviation. So there's one version of the Quran. Now, I've been reflecting on this concept of jive, right? Jive, it's such an entertaining word, but it's really evil. That's the definition of evil, deceit. That's the nature of Satan. He's called the deceiver. And we have a society which is basically based on jive. That's the society. And we are going to go up, maybe not literally in physical flames, but the society is in the process of destroying itself. Just elected a man who would blatantly lying constantly in our face, lying. And now that all these people voted for him thinking he's going to bring prices down and do a whole bunch of other things. And then after he got elected, he said, oh, yeah, well, that's not true. Well, he was lying, and people knew he was lying beforehand. He actually said to people, well, this was not a lie. He said, I don't care about you. I just want your votes. I mean, that was a video. I was watching it. He actually said that to people who was talking, and these are his devoted followers. So I don't know what they thought he was doing, but he was telling the truth. But then when he lies, I mean, it doesn't make any difference. And politicians, we have an entire government consisting of people who supposedly are our representatives, and we know they don't represent us. They represent the people who gave them millions of dollars, and they represent the interests of a foreign nation, right? A foreign nation which claims to follow the ancient scriptures, and the ancient scriptures says, quotes the prophet Samuel. The prophet Samuel said to the king of Israel, "Go down and exterminate the Amalekites. Exterminate them, men, women, and children, and even the sheep and the cattle. Wipe them off the face of the earth." This is in the book of Samuel, right? This is in the book of Samuel. And the leader of Israel has referred to the Palestinians as Amalekites, and they are actually in the process of exterminating them. So if you're a Zionist, and I've written this, I've shared it on Facebook, if you're a Zionist, then embrace it. That's what you believe, that this is the command of God to exterminate these people. But I am absolutely convinced that that version, different versions of the Bible, these are, people just write these things because it serves their purpose, So a man is a priest, and he has this idea that he wants people to follow, and so he puts it in the scriptures. Oh, this is sacred. This is the word of God, and it's actually the word of Satan. This idea of what they are doing to the Palestinians is the result of demonic, satanic ideas ensconced in the scriptures, right? Now, either you believe that the Creator of the heavens and the earth, right? The fact that you can put one foot in front of the other on the ground. We think quicksand is terrible. Oh, it's terrible. He stepped on the ground and it just swallowed him up. I mean, it's quicksand. Well, the entire of the cosmos was created by one creator. One creator. People say, oh, I believe in this God or that God or the other God. If that was true, the laws of nature would not be consistent. Okay? Would not be consistent. So we are accepting the idea that the one who created us and everything is consistent and truthful. How can we base a society on having all of these different ideas, many of them deadly, right? I'm descended from a people who were transported here and subjected to the worst things imaginable. And the people who brought us here and did all of these things, they hate us. They hate us. They've done all of the unimaginable things and feel holy in doing them. Holy. I mean, the idea that we are a different race, there's only one race of human beings on the planet. I mean, this is documented. People have written books. I'm trying to think. Wow. Can't remember the man's name, but there's Stephen Jay Gould, Gould, who's written about this, and Ashley Montague, I think his name is, yeah, I have a book here, Ashley Montague, wrote an entire book, A Man's Most Dangerous Myth. I think that's what it's called, but it's about race. Thick book, thick book. Um, and he wrote a thin book about it also. This is a lie and a myth. Jive, right? There's only one race, one. But they say these things, and then they do all kinds of crazy things to people because they say that this is sacred truth. So we need to be very careful about that. If you really want to be sincere and honest and straightforward, you need to study these things and say, well, and embrace what is true and reject what is not true. Okay. There are several versions of the Bible. There is one version of the Quran. So that tends to be evidence that the Quran is actually what it claims to be, which is a message from the Creator of the heavens and the earth. Hopefully tomorrow, item number 9, the Bible is read in translation. The Quran is read in its original language. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Praise be to Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.